My name is Hannah Clark, and the day I realized teenagers and entitlement had gone too far was the day I stood in my classroom in Perth, chalk dust on my fingers, watching a group of students I'd poured my heart into destroy everything I'd built. It was a Friday afternoon, the last bell still echoing, when I found my desk covered in graffiti, crude words and drawings scratched into the wood, my carefully curated bulletin board of student achievements torn down, and a note taped to my chair that read, "You're a joke, Miss Clark." The culprits? A clique of Year 10 students, led by a girl named Ava, who thought their popularity and parents' money made them untouchable. For months, they'd mocked my lessons, ignored my rules, and turned my English class into a battlefield. But that day, as I stood in the wreckage of my safe space, I didn't cry. I didn't quit. I decided to teach them a lesson they'd never forget. One that would strip away their smug entitlement and show them consequences aren't just for other people. I've been a high school English teacher for 7 years, working at a private school in Perth's leafy suburbs. I grew up in a working-class family, my dad a mechanic, my mum a cleaner, both of them hammering into me that education was my way out. I loved books, still do, and teaching was my dream, a chance to show kids like me that words could open doors. When I started at St. Augustine's, I was 26, starry-eyed, ready to inspire. The school was posh, uniforms crisp, facilities gleaming, parents driving Autos. But the students? Some were brilliant, curious kind. Others, like Ava and her crew, Ethan, Mia, and Lucas, were a different story. They walked in like they owned the place, phones out, smirks permanent, treating teachers like staff at a resort they were slumming at. Ava was the ringleader, 16, with perfect hair and a smile that could cut glass. Her dad was a property developer, her mum a lawyer, and she wore their influence like a crown. Ethan was her shadow, a lanky kid with a cruel streak, always ready to back her up. Mia was quieter but just as sharp, her giggles a weapon. Lucas was the charmer, the one who'd flash a grin to get out of trouble. Together, they ruled the Year 10 social hierarchy, and they knew it. I'd seen entitled kids before, but this group was different. They didn't just push boundaries, they laughed at them. It started small. Ava would roll her eyes when I assigned essays, muttering, "This is pointless." Ethan would accidentally drop his book during quiet reading, snickering when I asked him to stop. Mia would text under her desk, ignoring my warnings. Lucas would charm his way out of late assignments, saying, "Sorry, miss, family stuff," with a wink that made my skin crawl. I tried everything, extra credit, one-on-one talks, parent meetings. But Ava's parents dismissed my concerns. "She's just spirited," her mum said over Zoom, her tone implying I was the problem. Ethan's dad laughed off his behavior as boys being boys. The school's head, Mr. Thompson, urged me to manage the classroom better, his eyes saying, "Don't rock the boat with our top donors." By midterm, it was open warfare. Ava started a group chat. Students showed me screenshots, where she called me Miss Tryhard, and posted memes mocking my lessons. Ethan would interrupt my lectures with fake coughs, the others laughing like it was a game. Mia would forget her homework, then copy someone else's in front of me. Lucas once left a caricature of me on my desk, glasses exaggerated, hair a mess, caption sad spinster. I was 33, single, and suddenly felt like I was back in high school myself, the nerdy kid being picked on by the cool crowd. I reported it to Mr. Thompson, who sighed and said, "Kids will be kids, Hannah. Document it, but don't escalate unless it's serious." I tried to stay calm, to focus on the students who cared, but the stress was eating me alive. My sleep was shot, my weekends spent dreading Monday. I started doubting myself. Maybe I wasn't cut out for this. Maybe Ava was right, and I was a joke. Then came the graffiti. I walked into my classroom after lunch, expecting to prep for a poetry lesson, and found my desk defaced, my bulletin board shredded, that note glaring at me. I knew it was them. Ava's handwriting was unmistakable, and Ethan's signature smirk was in the stick figure drawing. I stood there, my hands shaking, chalk dust settling on my shoes. The room felt like a crime scene, my passion for teaching bleeding out on the floor. I could have reported it, waited for another half-hearted investigation from the school. But I was done waiting, done being their punching bag. If they thought they could ruin me and walk away, they were about to learn how wrong they were. I didn't report the vandalism right away. I took photos. Every scratch, every rip, every cruel word. I saved the note, folded it carefully, and slipped it into my bag. Then I cleaned the desk myself, scrubbing until my hands were raw, because I didn't want them to see me break. But inside I was building something, a plan to make Ava and her crew face the consequences they thought they were above. First, I needed evidence. The graffiti was a start, but I needed more. Proof of their pattern, their entitlement, their cruelty. I already had the group chat screenshots from other students, but I wanted their own words, their own actions. I started documenting everything. Every snide comment, every missed assignment, every time they broke a rule and laughed it off. I kept a log, dated and detailed, like a scientist tracking a storm. I saved emails from parents who'd dismissed my concerns, noting how they'd enabled their kids. I even recorded a few classes. Not the students' faces, just audio, capturing Ava's interruptions, Ethan's taunts, Mia's giggles, Lucas's fake apologies. It was legal, I checked, as long as I didn't share it publicly without consent. But I wasn't planning to go public. Not yet. I also talked to other teachers, quietly. Ms. Patel, who taught math, admitted Ava had cheated on a test, but her parents handled it, with a donation to the school. Mr. Nguyen, the history teacher, said Ethan had thrown a textbook at a classmate, but Mr. Thompson told him to let it go. The more I dug, the clearer it was. Ava's crew thrived because the system let them. Money, influence, charm, it was their shield. But shields can break. The key was timing. I couldn't just confront them in class. They'd laugh it off, turn it into a joke. I needed a stage where their parents, their peers, the whole school would see them for what they were. The perfect moment was coming. The annual St. Augustine's Talent Showcase. A big event where students performed, parents clapped, and the community patted itself on the back. Ava was starring in a skit, Ethan was MC, Mia was on lights, and Lucas was doing a guitar solo. It was their night to shine, to cement their status as the school's golden kids. I was going to turn it into their reckoning. I spent weeks preparing. I turned my evidence into a presentation. Clean, professional, like a report I'd write for work. Screenshots of the group chat, photos of the graffiti, audio clips of their taunts, my log of their behavior. I called it the cost of entitlement. I didn't want to just humiliate them. I wanted to show the school, the parents, the community what happens when you let kids think they're above consequences. I burned the presentation onto a USB drive, tested it, practiced my delivery. I kept my voice calm, factual, but every word was a blade. I also reached out to other students, quietly, carefully. A few, like Sarah, a shy girl who'd been bullied by Ava, shared their own stories. Sarah gave me a video she'd taken of Ava mocking her in the locker room. Another student, Ben, sent me a text where Lucas bragged about getting away with skipping detention. Their courage fueled mine. This wasn't just my fight anymore. It was for every kid who'd been stepped on by Ava's crew. The night before the showcase, I barely slept. I sat at my kitchen table, the USB drive in front of me, picturing Ava's smirk, Ethan's laugh, Mia's eye roll, Lucas's wink. I imagined their faces when the truth hit. It wasn't joy I felt. It was purpose. They'd taken my classroom, my peace, my passion. I was taking it back. The talent showcase was held in the school auditorium, packed with parents, students, and local donors. The stage was lit with colored lights, music pumping, the air buzzing with excitement. Ava was backstage, prepping her skit, her laughter carrying over the crowd. Ethan was at the podium, cracking jokes as MC, his confidence unshakable. Mia fiddled with the lighting board, smirking at her friends. Lucas tuned his guitar, flashing grins at girls in the front row. They were in their element, untouchable. Or so they thought. I'd volunteered to help with the tech crew, so no one questioned me slipping into the AV booth. The setup was simple. A laptop, a projector, a screen behind the stage. I waited until the first few acts, dance routines, a piano solo, were done. The crowd warmed up. Ethan announced a special presentation from the faculty, and I stepped into the booth, USB in hand. The tech kid Liam raised an eyebrow when I said, "I've got something to add." I smiled calm. "It's a surprise for the students." He shrugged and let me plug it in. When Ethan handed the mic to Mr. Thompson, I took my chance. I stepped onto the stage, the USB drive already loaded, and said, "Before we continue, I have something to share." The crowd quieted, curious. Ava peeked from backstage, her smile faltering. I clicked the remote, and the screen lit up. The cost of entitlement. "My name is Hannah Clark," I said, my voice steady over the hush. "I've taught at St. Augustine's for 7 years. I've seen incredible students, but I've also seen what happens when entitlement goes unchecked." The first slide appeared. A photo of my desk, graffiti scrawled across it. Gasps rippled through the audience. "This is what I found in my classroom. Done by students who think rules don't apply to them." I clicked again. Screenshots of Ava's group chat, her calling me Miss Tryhard. Parents shifted in their seats. Ava's mom, in the front row, went pale. I played an audio clip. Ethan's voice, taunting me during class. "What's the point of this, miss? No one cares." Murmurs grew louder. I showed Sarah's video, Ava mocking her in the locker room. A parent stood, angry, whispering to her neighbor. Ava burst onto the stage, her face red. "This is a lie. She's making it up," she shouted, but her voice cracked. I didn't flinch. I clicked to the next slide. The note from my chair. "You're a joke, Miss Clark," in her handwriting. "This is your work, Ava," I said. "Yours, Ethan's, Mia's, Lucas's. You thought you could destroy my classroom and walk away. You were wrong." The crowd was buzzing now, parents glaring, students whispering. Ethan tried to laugh it off from the podium. "Come on, it's just a prank." But no one laughed. I played another clip. Lucas bragging about skipping detention. Mia's parents, in the third row, looked like they'd been slapped. I ended with a slide listing every incident, every rule broken, every consequence dodged. "This is what entitlement looks like," I said. "It's not just about me. It's about every student you've hurt, every teacher you've disrespected, every rule you've laughed at." I set the remote down. "You're not untouchable," I said, looking at Ava, then Ethan, Mia, Lucas. "Not anymore." I walked off stage, the silence behind me deafening. Ava was crying, Ethan frozen, Mia staring at the floor. Lucas's guitar lay abandoned. I didn't stay for the rest of the showcase. I drove home, the auditorium's lights fading in my mirror. My phone buzzed with texts, colleagues, parents, even students. "You were so brave," Sarah wrote. "Thank you." Ms. Patel called, her voice shaking. "I should have backed you up sooner. I'm sorry." Mr. Thompson left a voicemail, asking me to meet him Monday. I didn't reply. I poured a tea, sat on my couch, and let the quiet settle over me. For the first time in months, I felt like I could breathe. The fallout was immediate. By Monday, the school was in chaos. Parents demanded meetings, furious their kids had been enabled. Ava's parents tried to spin it, claiming she was stressed, but the evidence was too damning. Ethan, Mia, and Lucas faced suspension. Ava was expelled after her parents' lawyer couldn't argue away the graffiti. The school launched a culture review, and Mr. Thompson's job was on the line. Students started a petition for tougher anti-bullying policies, Sarah's name first on the list. Ava tried to fight back, posting on Snapchat that I'd lied to ruin her. But the video spread, and her followers turned on her, calling her out for bullying. Ethan's parents pulled him from school embarrassed. Mia's grades tanked. She lost her spot on the lighting crew. Lucas apologized to me in person, his charm gone, his voice small. "I didn't know it hurt you that bad, miss," he said. I nodded but didn't absolve him. He needed to carry that weight. My classroom felt different after that. The students who stayed were quieter, more focused. Sarah started speaking up in class, her essays glowing with confidence. Other teachers began enforcing rules they'd let slide. The school wasn't perfect, but it was changing. I was changing too. I stopped doubting myself, stopped letting entitled kids dictate my worth. I started a book club for students like Sarah, the ones who'd been overshadowed. It became the most popular club in school. Ava moved to another city, her social media silent. I heard she's struggling to fit in at her new school, her reputation following her like a shadow. I don't wish her pain, but I don't wish her well either. She taught me something. Entitlement isn't just a teenage phase, it's a choice, and it has a cost. I learned that saying no to entitlement is saying yes to yourself. Ava and her crew thought they could walk over me because I was just a teacher, because I cared too much. But I showed them, and myself, that caring doesn't make you weak. It makes you dangerous. Because when you care enough to fight back, you don't just win. You change the game. If you enjoyed this revenge story, don't forget to like, subscribe, and comment where you're watching from.